What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of the OneFourthCareers podcast. I'm your host, Xavier, and I'm here with Lane. Lane graduated from Northeastern University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and Psychology with a concentration in marketing and a minor in French in 2021. Now, Lane works as an associate brand manager at Fenty Beauty, focused on product strategy. Welcome to the pod, Lane. What's going on, sis?
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. Doing well. Summer's going well. Summer's flying by, as we were saying. How are you? Where are you in the world?
So I am in New York. I am good. Summer is also flying by. It is extremely hot here. I miss living in the Bay sometimes, but
Yep.
things are going well. Can't complain.
Good. I love that. Well, I've known you for a little while, and it's been great knowing you. I know how awesome you are, but let the people know a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, of course. So I was born and raised in DC, and then I went to school in Boston, like Xavier mentioned, at Northeastern University. After school, I started working at Kendo, which is an LVMH subsidiary. And LVMH, for those of you who don't know, stands for LouisVuitton Hennessy. It is one of the biggest luxury goods conglomerates in the world. And so I moved to the Bay for that. Lived in Oakland for the last couple of years, and then I recently relocated to New York at the beginning of this year. And I'm here. So in terms of background, I studied business and psychology, have always had an interest in consumer behavior, and knew I kind of wanted to influence product launches. And so that's kind of what I got into. And then separate from that, I have always loved volunteering. I volunteer here through LVMH. I volunteered in school. I was the head of a small youth tutoring program, which was great. And yeah, now I'm just living life.
Yeah, no, I love it. And went coast to coast from Boston to San Fran to New York. Maybe your next move will be back to the West Coast, and you're just ping-ponging.
I know. I feel like my parents are like, is she gonna settle down?
Right.
They usually move every couple of years.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. So now you're at Fenty Beauty. Take me back before we move forward. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I actually wanted to be a pediatric neurosurgeon, which is completely different than obviously what I do now. But I think I've always loved kids, and I've always been interested in how the brain works, and I was really like helping people. And so I feel like in my head, I was like, this is just the perfect career. And then I realized that I don't like standing for hours. I don't like, the precision of like surgery around brains. Like, some things make me squeamish, and so I was like, that's maybe not the career for me. And so when I started college, I actually entered as only a psych major, and I had planned to be a psychologist. And so that's kind of how I pivoted. And then I realized that I'm super opinionated and it's hard for me to give objective advice, but I am interested in kind of like people's behavior, why they do what they do, why they like what they like, and how we can kind of give it to them. And so that's when I added on business as a major and started focusing on consumer behavior. And I've just had a love for beauty and fashion and retail since I was younger. I would literally do like runway shows for my mom. I went to sewing camp. I would like steal all of her makeup. And so I did internships in fashion and beauty and also tech actually, which was just kind of like a deviation. And then I landed in beauty when I graduated.
That is so cool. I really appreciate that rundown. Really tells the story, honestly. So if you guys need to know anything about Lane, you can actually leave the pod because you've already heard everything there to know.
That's it. Neurosurgeon to psychologist to brand manager.
Right. So tell me more about being a brand manager. What is that like? How would you describe some of your roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, so I think my career journey is interesting because I've now within Kendo, which is the beauty brand incubator, I've touched 3 brands currently on Fenty, and I've touched 2 aspects of brand management. So when I first started, I was on the account management side, so really focused on our retailer partnerships, such as working with Sephora, Ulta, as well as our international retailers, such as Boots, Say There. I don't know, this might sound like a foreign language to you, but It was really figuring out what launches they thought were going to do the highest volume, like getting them to partner with us on animations and campaigns, making sure we are optimizing our product pages, which is like any product you search on their site, making sure it's enticing and we're increasing kind of buyer conversion. That's kind of everything that I did, which I really loved, but I kind of wanted to be more on the product strategy side where you kind of think about what we should be launching. You're really brainstorming product ideas, and then you're bringing it to life from ideation to implementation, really. And so I moved over to product strategy in fall of 2021, and I basically do just that still. Obviously, I'm a different brand now, but it's basically focusing on the go-to-market launch process for whatever category you're on. And so you have to think of the product, figure out what season is best for it to launch. For example, I own the go-to-market process for our lip launches. So thinking about how many shades you would want from like a lipstick, what that shade range kind of looks like, what the price should be, what the packaging should be. And then you kind of do a brief where you kick it off to all of your cross-functional partners, and then our packaging team starts working on packaging, our product development team starts working on the formula. And then once you get that approved, the kind of biggest part of my job is the product messaging. So now we have interesting packaging, we have a great formula. How can I position it in a way that's unique to the customer and unique to the market? And so thinking about kind of what's our USP, which is our unique selling point, and how can we craft messaging that is compelling enough for people to buy it? And then that strategy and messaging really informs our marketing campaigns and how we kind of bring the product to market. So it's like everything from working from packaging to product development to like our creative team to figure out what assets they should shoot and how we want them to capture the launch, to marketing, to finance, to sourcing, to make sure that we're meeting our margin targets. And so that's kind of high level what the job is.
Okay, so you're to blame for people spending all their money on the lip gloss.
100%. I know.
Those USPs, man. Jeez.
I know. I'm like, if I
That's
ever
funny.
leave beauty, I don't know what I'm going to do because I just take so many free products now.
Oh my goodness. No, I love that. That was extremely thorough and it really helped me kind of understand a little bit about brand management. So that was really cool and interesting, just as I've never really talked to a brand manager before and gotten a little deep dive on what they do. And the field that you do it in, doing it in beauty, I think is really cool. And I think there are a lot of people who maybe don't know the details behind the scenes. So really
100%.
excited for our viewers being able to hear that. Now,
Yeah,
tell me
definitely.
this. How did you actually enter into your role working where you work at?
Yeah, so I got my job while I was still in college through networking. So shout out networking. I feel like that's like my biggest piece of advice to anyone. But I feel like my senior year, I knew that I wanted to work in beauty. I knew that I wanted to do product marketing, brand management, product strategy, like that sort of thing. And so I basically started to like cold reach out to people on LinkedIn that were Northeastern alums that worked at companies that I would be interested in. And someone responded from Kendo, and she was willing to chat with me, and she headed up all of the global events there. And we hit it off, and then she connected me to the VP of product development, which was super nice of her. And we also had a great conversation. And then, they referred me once the role opened up, and I interviewed like 6 different people. And then I got it. And so I did get it just through, networking and interviewing.
Yeah, no, that's so dope. I think that's an amazing lesson on what other people can do. If you want to
Yeah.
work somewhere, you can go on LinkedIn. You can use the filters to see who went to your school. And this is just one of the many use cases. So I think that's really cool. I always tell people, make a LinkedIn, make a LinkedIn. They might be in high school. I'll be like, start a LinkedIn, or if they're an
No,
undergrad,
100%. And
make
I
your
feel like
LinkedIn.
most opportunities I've gotten, I feel like it's been through networking, whether that be in person or through utilizing LinkedIn. But I got this job, honestly, I
Yeah.
guess through LinkedIn.
No, that's cool. I love that. Now, tell me a little bit about some of the skills you feel are really critical to be successful in your role.
Really, yeah. I think since the kind of crux of what we do is focused on crafting compelling messages, I think you need to be pretty strong in storytelling. Overall, like being able to pull out headlines for decks because kind of we're the team that creates every deck about all product details that get sent to our retailers, that get sent to our copy team for them to put up on our product pages, like gets external facing. Like you have to be good at telling the story pretty cohesively. And then I think second to that, you have to understand the consumer. So consumer behavior is really helpful. I took a consumer behavior class in college. Obviously, I focused on business and psychology, took some organizational behavior classes, which I think are really helpful. But you really have to put yourself in the mindset of our target demographic for whatever launch it is. And so it's like, what
Yeah.
would appeal to them? What is this person looking for? And so like when I was on skincare, like I was working on like a retinol launch, for example, and that's a completely different target demographic than a lip gloss because
Yeah.
retinol is usually anti-aging. So you're targeting fine lines and wrinkles. It's normally for an older consumer. So I'm like, what would be the most compelling for them versus who wants this high shine lip gloss that nourishes your lips. So I
Yeah.
think being able to put different hats on and understand different consumers in order to create that compelling messaging is very helpful.
Okay. Now, also tell me about some programs and associations that you feel people could join if they want to be in closer proximity in the beauty space, or maybe it's the brand management space. What have you been a part of, and what have you observed has been really effective ecosystems to feed into the role and industry you're in?
Yeah, to be fair, I feel like I'm not a part of any work-related program and
Yeah.
associations, but I do feel like what we have at work is called Curiosity Day, and so once a quarter, you have the day off to focus on personal development, and so I take a lot of LinkedIn learning courses, and so I think there's a lot on how to create compelling headlines, product messaging, storytelling, sort of a lot related to consumer behavior insights, how to do proper market research. And so I feel like I would recommend watching videos about general product strategy and general ideas around how to bring a product to market in a compelling way. Again, focused on messaging because I found a lot of those LinkedIn learning classes and YouTube videos the most helpful for what I do. I think secondarily, like I mean, I was a business major, so I had to take like finance classes and
Right.
accounting classes, and I do think they're a little bit helpful just because we're also in pivot tables, looking at sales data and seeing like
Mhm.
how is our launch doing, how is it doing, kind of compared to competitor launches, and analyzing that. And so I
Yeah.
think having basic knowledge of Excel is also helpful.
Mhm.
But I feel like most of the resources that I've used have been through video format rather than joining outside business associations and programs.
I appreciate that. I think that's really insightful to highlight the different pathways that individuals go to get to where they are. I think probably for people who are interested in joining programs and associations, something that you can maybe learn from what Lane is talking about is it seems that it's very intentional what she's done to acquire different skills, where she's gone to get said skills. But it also shows that she had a heightened sense of clarity around what skills she needed to do the work that she's doing now. Even if some of it is in retrospect, I think that's why it's also great for you all to also hear some of what she's talking about as a brand manager, because you can identify, oh, she looks at pivot tables and she works in Excel, or oh, she's doing product strategy, product development. You can then look in your environment, next to you to see what organizations you have around you that maybe provide the opportunities to refine those skills. So hopefully that gives like a lead, if you will, if anyone's interested in getting more involved in college, or if you're already a working age adult and you feel that you need to acquire some skills to make a certain transition to this area. I think that's really helpful. So that's a good call out too.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like there's a lot of different backgrounds that can get into brand management. Like I feel like there are a lot
Yeah.
of transferable skills. Like for example, on our team we have someone who was literally a bio major pre-med in
Okay.
college, and then decided at the last minute that she wanted to be a cosmetic chemist. And so also had a focus on chemistry, and then pivoted again and then entered brand management. And so I do think as long as you have like specific transferable skills, you're fine, depending on whatever path you're taking in school.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're reading my mind, because I wanted to talk to you about that next on the diversity of backgrounds that people have. Do you have any other examples of other people that you know have done similar things, or do you know generally a call out of I've seen this degree represented, this type of background represented, whether it's college or not college? Just generally, what have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us specifically within brand management, it's more about, do you understand what the white space in the market is? Like, do you have a pulse on beauty? Like, there are so many makeup brands or so many skincare brands out right now. Like, do you understand kind of the positioning of major brands and major players in the space? Do you understand where beauty is going? What are trends that could come out? Like, we work 3 years, 2 to 3 years in advance. So like I'm working on 2026, 2027 right now. So it's like, can you see kind of where the market is going, what people are going to want by then? Then it is, what did you study? I will say most of our team does generally have like business marketing backgrounds, but there are people like, I have a brand manager who she was in finance before, and then she worked at Meta, and now she's here. Like, we have someone who spent her whole career in investment banking. She got her MBA at Stanford, and then she came to beauty. Like, we have like a lot of people who have come from diverse backgrounds who've decided they want to do this. And I think as long as you kind of have the transferable skills that you can speak to, you'll be fine, as well as like a love for the space. I feel like at least the one common thread across everyone is they love beauty, they understand the market, and they understand within like our brand, kind of what our brand vision is, what our brand kind of mission and values are, and where we can go.
I love that. That is just so rich of information. And I've recently started noticing that trend whenever I ask some of those similar questions. Interestingly enough, I'm hearing a lot of guests talk about having just a genuine interest in the company, or a genuine interest in what field um, you're in or the guest is in. So I think that is really powerful for those who have not seen previous episodes where maybe a guest has talked about it's more about skills and less about the degree. To some
Yeah.
extent, when you get a certain degree, like, you will have a higher likelihood of acquiring certain skills. So maybe that's why if you're in business or marketing or finance, certain skills you'll pick up are a little bit more transferable than if you go do another type of degree. But it also highlights the fact that you're not necessarily stuck. You shouldn't limit yourself from what opportunities you seek just because of your degree, but also know that there is another side rather than just credentials. Another important component of that is, what skills do you have? And also, what are you passionate about? What are you interested in? And hearing kind of what Lane is talking about, if anyone is aspiring to be in beauty, I think that's extremely insightful to know. Maybe when you're having a behavioral interview, or an interview where a person's asking you, like, why do you want this job? Tell me about a time when, tell me about yourself generally. You can speak to exactly what Lane is referencing of, what do you know about beauty? What do you know about the market? What do you know about unique positions and framing of different organizations? And I think that is just incredibly powerful. So I hope y'all are picking up these gems, because that is a huge one.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, like, just to give further tips and insights, like,
Yeah.
I was interviewing at 4 different beauty companies before I like chose Kendo. And they all kind of asked the same questions. Like, I got asked why beauty by every single company. I got asked kind of what white space opportunities I see for insert whatever brand. I got asked where I think the market's going. And so I just think having a pulse on the industry is helpful wherever you go. And as someone who has recently interviewed multiple people for open roles on our team, I also ask that. So
Yeah, it's real. It's real, guys. It's real.
yeah.
These are real gems. I promise you, we're not lying. So from there, looking back on your journey you've had so far, if you could go back and you could give yourself advice when you were at Northeastern University, what would that advice look like to better prepare yourself for your current role, for life, whatever's top of mind?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I would probably focus more on headlines and decks, like creating PowerPoints, and have more of a focus on messaging. Like I do that now, and I feel like I've done um, LinkedIn learning courses and watched YouTube videos on it. But I feel like when I was at school, my focus was really consumer behavior, is really kind of a psychoanalysis of the
Hmm.
consumer, so to speak, as well as like digging into market research, data, that sort of thing. Like I was a research assistant for a couple of years. I was a marketing assistant for a cognitive lab focused on like paid media and ads. I did loyalty marketing focused on increasing our loyalty members at TJX, which is a company that owns like, TJ Maxx,
Hmm.
Marshalls, Home Goods. I did digital marketing, again, focused on in-app campaigns and email campaigns and push campaigns, that sort of thing. But I didn't have such a focus on actually like creating compelling messaging within Dex. I feel like I did a bunch of other aspects of marketing and consumer behavior related kind of skills. But I think if I could give myself advice, I would focus more on the messaging piece just because that's a lot of what I do now.
Yeah, I love that. That just made me think that if I were a younger person, let's say high school or early on in college, and I heard you say some of what you've shared so far, and I also maybe had a little bit of the mindset that I have now, I'd be encouraged to say, what skills do I have? What skills don't I have? Let me go acquire the skills I don't have by way of certain classes, certain internships, because I do want people who have the time and space to sort of build themselves up for an ideal role that they want versus others who are kind of looking to pivot sooner, or those who are looking to transition and kind of get it out the mud a little bit more. But for those who have the time and space to be methodical about how you build yourself up and plan, I would say that's a really good call out. Think about what skills you have or don't have. Not only think, because I don't want to kind of sell you the wrong direction, talk to mentors and talk to peers and talk to people, because they will actually help you identify what skills you need to go into a certain role. And then you can maybe get a certain internship or things like that to build up the nice
100%.
portfolio you feel like is important.
Yeah, and I feel like, of course, it's hard. Like, I think the reason I mean, I did three completely different internships in like different fields of like marketing and brand was because I just didn't know. Like, I think sometimes in college you don't know.
Mhm.
But I figured it out more my senior year, which is when I started networking with people because I was like, I need to find a job. But I feel like it was the networking with people, even at jobs that I wasn't like sold on, just to hear
Yeah.
about their job functions was really helpful to me, to hear like day-to-day responsibilities, overall responsibilities, just in a capacity that I don't know just by like taking courses
Right.
in college.
Yeah.
And so I think even if your goal isn't to find a job, like I would recommend networking with people on LinkedIn or in person or going to networking events, just to hear about different job functions because there might be things that you don't even know about. Like I didn't even really know what brand management was until like my junior or senior year. And I was
Yep.
like, wait, that sounds like exactly what I kind of want to do. And so I think it can just expand kind of not only your reach and your network, but kind of your thought of what you could do and what's possible.
I love it. I love it. Now, a little bit of housekeeping here. If someone wants to go into brand management, they acquire the opportunity through their own diligence. What do they have to look forward to on the other side from a career progression standpoint? How would you describe the different levels vertically and a little bit of maybe what that career path can look like if you, let's say, are a brand manager lifer?
Yeah, 100%. I think the timeline is a little bit different depending on the company. But for us, you start as a coordinator. You're a coordinator for 1 to 2 years, and then you become an associate. You're an associate generally for like 2 years ish on average. And then you become a brand manager, also brand manager for like 2 to 3 years. Then you become a senior brand manager. From senior brand manager, it goes to director, senior director, VP, and then SVP or GM, which is general manager. And
Yeah.
then there's our CEO, which,
Yeah.
hey, I mean, who you can be on the CEO track. That's what you aspire to be for sure.
Yes, I love that. Well, we're at our last segment called a three-piece, inspired by being a foodie for people who order that three-piece of this, three-piece of that. Um, I want to know three-piece for your career. What are three words that you would use to describe your career journey thus far?
Evolving for sure. Just because I've touched multiple brands, departments in my 3 years here. I've had like 6 bosses, like lots of change.
Everybody knows Lane.
Fun. I really enjoy what I do. I think I really wanted to work in a capacity that I'm at the intersection of what's interesting to me and what I'm passionate about, just because obviously work is 40 plus hours of your week. And so you want to make sure you're doing something that also really interests you. And then it's like challenging in the best way. Like I think, and I feel like, and maybe actually I'll add ever changing to that, separate from evolving. Like I think evolving is more so I have changed a lot in my career. Like I've gone to like multiple different teams, like I mentioned, but ever changing, and the fact that no day is the same. I'm working on like about 15 upcoming launches, and so every single launch is in like a different stage. Like I'm working on something that's coming out like early 2025. I'm also working on something that's coming out fall 2026, March 2027. Like so because you're in different stages of the launch process for everything you're doing, your day-to-day is so different. Your meetings are different. What you're talking about is different. What you're thinking about is really different. And that's something that I really appreciate, not only at Kendo, but just in my career as a whole, just because I'm someone who gets bored easily and I like to like think about new things as much as I can.
Let's go. Evolving, fun, and challenging, right?
Yeah.
Those are the three. I love challenging in the best way. I think that's really cool. Well, with all the success that you've achieved so far, who or what has inspired you?
Yeah, I think I would say my mom has inspired me the most, honestly. She had a really cool career. She's also someone that pivoted. She went to Brown and she majored in computer science. And then she ended up being a director at AT&T by the time she was 27. But her love has always been writing. And I think she probably would have been like an English major if she wasn't like chasing the money, which of course a lot of people do. And so after she had me and my brother, she took some time off, but then kind of pivoted completely and started working at the World Bank. And she was finally headed up the Department of Communications there. And so I think it was really inspiring to see how successful she was early on and how hard she worked to do that. But then also to see her be able to switch into her passions. I mean, I think it's never too late to like completely change your career and then do something that
That's a bar. That's a bar.
That she really loved for, like 15 years. She's retired now and she's doing a podcast as well. But I think she's always kind of worked extremely hard and also never stopped chasing what she wanted. And so she really inspires me.
Sounds like a wonderful person. Thank you for sharing that transparency, and kudos to all of our villages out there that have inspired us incredibly to go on and do the things that we're doing and the things that we will do in the future. 100%. So also tell me this, in the next year or two, where do you see yourself?
Yeah, so obviously I work product strategy, brand management, and beauty. And I do love what I do. I think though that I would love to eventually kind of expand my reach. Like our target demographic is relatively specific with beauty. And so I'm thinking about potentially at some point pivoting into product marketing within the tech world, just because I feel like tech is so ingrained in our day-to-day lives and has such a big audience. And so I think that could potentially be a next step for me, and then eventually want to get my MBA. And so thinking of going to business school in the next few years, whenever that may be. And then long-term, probably pivot to product management. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I see myself going timeline unclear. But just
Figure it
taking
out. Yeah,
taking
we're gonna
things
figure it out along the way. But
100%.
no, super excited for you. You've done such incredible things already, and I know there's just so much success ahead of you. So for everyone who potentially connects with Lane on LinkedIn, I look forward to all of you seeing all the great things she's doing as well. And I think that's really cool. So we'll be in
Thank you.
touch and we'll be keeping up to see kind of what those plans look like. Uh,
100%.
so as we get ready to close, I would love to hand you the mic to share more about your mom's podcast or plug
Yeah.
anything else meaningful you have going on. You spent so much time pouring into the audience. We'll love to provide space for the audience to pour back into you and support whatever you have going on or loved ones.
Thank you. Yeah, no, definitely gonna plug my mom and aunt's podcast. They created it last year. It's their retirement passion project, and it's called the Bodywell Sisters. It is a podcast focused on Black women's health experiences, generally in America, but kind of just overall. And so they have different guests every episode talking about different just general health experiences. So I'm a guest on season 2 talking about my experience with anxiety, but there are people talking about their difficulties with pregnancy, being a Black woman, from depression, like all sorts of topics. So definitely want to plug them. Season 3 is coming in the fall. And yeah, they're Bodywell Sisters on all platforms. They're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, as well as, of course, on Instagram too.
Shout out to those queens. Shout out to the sisters. Love y'all. Thank y'all for the work you're doing. And please go check out the pod. I'm about to hop on the pod too. I need to go check it out myself. In terms of me going to listen to the pod, they don't want me around right now. But go to listen to it. Thank you so much for sharing that, and super excited that that work is being done. Can't wait. I'll also forward it to all the family members I have as well, because I think it's something that a lot of people really need to hear. So
100%. I think just having a space of people talking about different experiences that they've had and being able to connect. I feel like I've heard things that I'm like, wow, like I was going through that too. And I didn't know that's a really common experience. Is super great.
Super dope. Well, we've made it to the end, Lane. I appreciate you so much for being here. Do you have anything else top of mind that you want to share with the people?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say, follow your passions. I feel like I didn't compromise either. Like, I think sometimes it's hard to look at friends who are kind of on a path to make a lot of money or doing different things and think, oh, like maybe I should pivot and do this. But I think you spend so much of your time working and thinking about your work and with your coworkers. Like, I think you really want to make sure it's something that you're really enjoying if you can. And then, network again, like my biggest piece of advice, which is everyone's biggest piece of advice, is whether you're searching for a job or not, like having a big network and a community around you is only going to help you in life. So I would highly, highly recommend doing that.
Big facts, big facts. Well, I'm so excited that I was networking and that you're now my network lane. Network is that much more rich, so to speak. So again, thank you so much for stopping by. Look forward to staying in touch. And this was just amazing. So we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right. See you later.
Bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being around for another episode at OneFourthCareers Podcast. Learned a lot from Lane today. Hopefully you all were able to take up some of those gems as well. Please take a look at the like, the comment, and the subscribe. Tap into all of that. Hit the notification button as well. We are streaming wherever you get your podcast. Leave a comment. Let me know what other careers you want to see. And as always, stay happy, stay blessed.